Wow, it's been quite some time since the last update. It's kind of becoming a theme. I'm going to try and be more frequent with them from here on out. We'll see if I can actually do that. Been working on the game. I want to cover what I've done since last time and a general roadmap moving forward, as well as after all that, do a bit more in-depth discussion on what I've learned. So what I've done since last time, a lot of stuff. First off, I want to cover a new creature that I made. So as you can see here, the new monster is pretty big. It moves similar, it generally behaves similar to the small runner. I want to do a simple monster for my first go at the new monster template I've created. This one though, it moves way slower, but when it locks onto the player, it gains the capability of destroying walls and world objects instantly, as you can see. The other difficult thing about these ones are they have a lot more HP, and on collision with the player, they do way more damage than the little runners. In order to make this monster, I also ended up remaking the little runner and the balloon monster by refactoring the monster system completely and making this template from which I can create new monsters without writing any additional code. All I have to do is configure the new art, sounds, collisions, animations, sourcing from a library of possible functions like teleporting and things like that, what kind of things they spawn. And moving on, I also made a bunch of elements that can affect the user and monsters as well in-game. So right here, I'm kind of just walking through and doing like a showcase of some of the varying elements. They all have a different visual look as well as sound. I tried to not just differentiate them by color and instead by like kind of how the shader looks. And I just showed back there, you can roll through them and your iframes will take you through the element. Here I'm demoing the acid, where it's kind of simple. It's just when you're in there, it'll hurt you. Here is the poison. When you get affected by poison, you take an initial hit of damage, and then from then on until the poison bar goes out, you can't heal anymore. You'll notice there isn't a lot of juice showing. I still need to make the juice for the elements to kind of show the player what is happening to them. This is EMPs. You can see in the top left corner, it saps your battery and your ammo really rapidly. Electricity, when it shocks you, does damage slower than acid, but it also prevents you from being able to roll for a little while. This is radiation. As you can hear from like the little Geiger counter sound going off. With radiation, right now it works kind of like Death Blight in, I think that's what it's called, in Souls games, where when the bar fills up, you just die. With Sludge, it just slows you and creature movement down. And then with Oil, it makes your movement and creature movement really, really slippery, pretty much. And lastly, with Lava, it works similar to how fire works, where if you go in and it catches you on fire, as you can see here, the user is hurt, but again, I don't have the juice to show it. To get rid of the lava, or the being on fire hurting you, you have to roll 3 times. Now, I've also made a bunch of objects, as you can see. I think last time I showed just my object population algorithm, but now I've actually went and made a number of objects. Again, this time I started with just making a template and deciding on what I wanted objects to have, functionality speaking, like what kind of things I wanted them to have. And then within that said, okay, this is what I'm working with. I'm not going to add additional features to them. I'm going to work within this kind of template. And from there, I was able to make like more than 100 or so variations of objects. And you know, each level will have different types of objects in them. These objects, again, I don't really need to write any code so much as just configure variables in a config file, as well as animations or sprites and modify hitboxes. Objects do have the ability to spawn other objects depending. So some things can, you can like blow open a tank and it'll either cause an explosion, or right here it'll, spawn a lot of other element stuff. Moving on, I'm trying to do this live. But going on to the lighting, I completely overhauled the lighting system. I'm not using the Godot lights anymore, and as a result, there's just I've gotten a lot out of it. The performance is way better. As you can see, I've stress tested like 100 lights on screen, and I saw no change in performance, as well as it looks like Nuclear Throne. I am really lagging behind this, but we're just gonna send it. So now, moving on to like the game loop. As you can see, I have like a full functioning game loop working now, where you basically go through 3 or 4 pods of 4 encounters each. And each pod has like a boss at the end. So right here I'm kind of illustrating the general process where you would go through this tree node, essentially like in like Slay the Spire, and you select which encounter you want to go through. When you're in the encounter, you can purchase upgrades, you can purchase guns, all kinds of stuff like that. And you move about the encounters, destroying people. So here the player just bought a rocket, and now they're using that, and they've already purchased like a droid that helps them out. Now they're going to, again, there's only programmer art right now for the pylons, but you have to go through, and this is where that kind of Risk of Rain vibe comes in, where you have to progress through the levels. You have to activate these pylons. Right now, I'm toying with the idea of, I also have it so that you can pick up and drop different weapons and collect them as you go. And you can gain more weapon slots as well. You're not stuck with only 2 weapon slots. Here's an example of like low light combat, where if you really let your flashlight go down too far, it can get kind of tense, and you end up having to use the light to your advantage. That was the other thing, is overhauling the light system allowed me to get crazier with lights and add lights to every bullet. I'm going to add it to a lot of enemies that are more dangerous maybe, or need more of a tell, you know. I'll allow the user to see them regardless. But then, you know, some of these little guys that move real fast, they don't do a lot of damage, but they're small and they move fast. I like that they become dangerous in their own way by not emitting light. So here we're back at the node tree. As you can see, there's paths. You'll have to plan out your path. This imagine if we skipped ahead and beat all those levels and got to the final one. This is just like the temporary placeholder boss. So right now it's just using example of like the blimp boss, or of the blimp creature. I haven't made a boss yet, but as you can see, this boss is doing a bunch of stuff. He's kind of disappearing randomly. That's because he's using the teleport library function. That being said, like, I didn't juice it up with any animations to like tell that it's happened. But here, I just wanted to test all of those just to make sure everything is working properly. What's not on screen is like a debug that shows that the bosses have different phases. So they'll have anywhere from 2 to 3 phases where they'll modify their moveset. Once you kill the boss, you'll see here the node tree is going to slide over, and then you'll go into this next set. And you just do that 4 times. As you can see, also when you hover, it'll show what kind of upgrades and guns there are. I like the idea of kind of just showing users, at least per pod, like what they kind of have to, what kind of path they can map out, because I plan on having so many upgrades and weapons that allowing this kind of understanding and knowledge of these things might allow people to like kind of more consistently achieve certain types of builds. Since there's so many different things, it's hard to get a consistent build anyway. Giving people that ability might be nice. Moving on, we have some settings. If the overlay will get out of the way, you can see there's a lot of FPS options here. The FPS, the physics tick is always at 60, but I'm interpolating the standard, or like just the drawn frames, and so even though the physics tick is always at 60 FPS, you can set the standard FPS to 144 if you have a 144 hertz screen, or custom, and you get like a nice smoothness enabled. I do plan on adding, as you could have seen back there was also audio, and some other stuff. I do also plan on like other quality of life things, like being able to turn off screen shake and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's coming along well. Anyway, moving on to some of the additional systems I made. I made a save system for saving progress as well as settings. I made a background loading system and a music manager system. A bunch of other stuff where predominantly all that's left is making a lot of this content now. And so, speaking of that, the general roadmap moving forward, one of the key things to add a lot of variance and fun to the game is making a bunch of different enemies. And with the template now, I kind of wrote out, and with the library of like monster abilities that I've kind of programmed and everything, I have like a couple plans for, I'd say, roughly like 20 different enemy archetypes, and from there I could even make some minor modifications to different types of enemies from there. But the goal is to have a series of a lot of different enemies, and hopefully be able to have a bunch of different enemies that are unique to different biomes as well, just to add some additional complexity. Then I want to make a legit boss. So I have a sample test boss created, but I want to develop the workflow of making an actual boss from start to finish, and then kind of figure out how to systematize that so that I can make, probably my goal is, minimum viable product 4, but maybe 6 of them. And then I want to make a couple tracks for the game, because right now I've just been using music I've made, but it's all just kind of placeholder stuff. I have created this music template that I've kind of, in its own way, I've like feature frozen the music template, where I've said, this is all I'm going to use. Whenever I make a new track, I'm going to load up this template. I can't make or add any other sounds anymore, even if I come up with new ideas. I'm stuck in this. And mostly this adheres to like a standard traditional orchestra. I'm kind of really pulling from like Nintendo kind of traditional classic soundtracks or FromSoft games of that nature, but then I wanted to get a little weirder with it, so I have some like Nordic tagelharpas, which are like these kind of dissonant, creaky bowed instruments, and some other interesting sounds, a lot of choirs, and some weird sounds as well. But I want to give it like this kind of consistent identity. I don't want to do a lot of drums, even though I'm a drummer, because there's a lot of percussive hitting sounds in this game. So I want to focus more on just tones and having the rhythms established by like staccato strings and not as many percussion sounds. But I have some percussion still in the template. If I can do all that, then the goal is to, once I have those things, that's the point where I will be comfortable with making a Steam page, and then making a Discord server, and then soon after a closed alpha. So really it comes down to make a couple creatures, make a boss, and then, I'd said music, but I would really just go to say polish, which means music, replace some of this programmer art, and then that will be enough for me to, I think, have enough of a solid chunk of something to show and have a Discord server, Steam page, and a closed alpha, and then eventually start working towards an open beta. Moving on to kind of like final musings from all this. I think my general approach to designing a lot of systems for this game has definitely improved, and I just kind of figured that out for some systems when they'd already been made. So, there's a couple things that are really, really old that I haven't needed to change, and I wouldn't make them the same way today, but there's just no need to go. There's no reason to go in and change them. But then there's a couple other things, like the player bullet and player gun system that I have no choice but to go in and completely refactor, but it is worth it to do so because right now I think I have something like 12 guns implemented, and I have 51 additional guns drawn out, completely written out design-wise, a couple new gun properties and functions fully designed and conceptualized, and I've kind of held off on implementing those because I realized the way I wrote the guns is one of the first things I did in this project, and I've just been dealing with. So, you know, gotta go fix that. Anyway, here's a little vlog of just some of the stuff I've done over the last year with family and friends, and I'm looking forward to updating you all whenever I somehow bring myself to do it. And thank you, as always, for sticking around and being interested in this game and this whole learning process that it's been for me, both creatively and with programming and just with how I approach things in general. Yeah, see you next time.
I don't want to.
Can you honk him?
Yeah.
Oh.
He doesn't
He doesn't give a fuck.
I'll just go the other way.
Yep.
Oh, look at all the cats. Oh my god.
Oh, they're going behind.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
that probably scares them though, that noise. Oh, that dog.
They're attacking me.
They're surrounding the whole
Oh my
car.
god, I don't know what to do.
Guess you just keep backing up.
Yeah, just really slowly.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going around. And then there's that dog right there, he's still staring at you like you guys haven't left.